Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into a concept today that completely flipped my perspective on what it actually means to be right. We're going to explore a pretty counterintuitive idea: how reframing our own uncertainty can actually build stronger relationships and a far more resilient society. We usually think of self doubt as a flaw, right? A crack in our armor, or something we should definitely hide. But what if it's the exact opposite? What if it's the actual engine of learning and connection? Get ready because we are going to completely flip the script on what it means to be strong enough to be wrong. Okay, let's dive right into this. You and I live in the exact same world. We can easily agree the sky is blue, water is wet, and the bus arrives at 8 o'clock. But when it comes to disagreements, whether that's in a meeting, in a marriage, or in politics, we aren't just objective cameras perfectly recording events. We're storytellers. Two entirely honest people can look at the exact same event and walk away with completely opposite narratives. Think about arguing over exactly what was said in a fight from 3 weeks ago. You both remember it perfectly, but you remember it completely differently. And the real kicker here? Your personal version feels, from the inside, exactly like the absolute unquestionable truth. Section 1. The illusion of absolute certainty. Why feeling right doesn't mean you actually are right. To really grasp this illusion, I want you to picture four people in a room. They come from completely different religious or philosophical traditions. Now, each person is 100% certain of their deeply held beliefs, and each is convinced of things the other three know to be absolutely false. Objectively speaking, at most, only one of them can be right. Yet, inside their minds, that total physiological conviction feels exactly the same for all four of them. And this brings us to a really humbling realization. Whatever certainty is, it's just not a reliable sign of the truth. Our brains are entirely capable of constructing a perfect delusion, a belief that is objectively false, but feels exactly like a correct conviction from the inside. Once you see this, you literally can't unsee it. The mere feeling of being certain just doesn't count as evidence anymore. So what happens when two absolute certainties collide? Imagine adding a second person to the mix that you can't just easily walk away from. Maybe it's your partner who is completely certain they told you about their dinner plans, or a coworker convinced their strategy is flawless, or a fellow citizen. Both of you hold opposing realities with total, unshakable certainty. Neither of you is backing down because you both feel you have the objective truth. Where exactly does that leave you? Section 2, Selbstzweifel, or redefining self-doubt. It's not a weakness, it's an active tool. Now, what's really interesting here is that we have to aggressively strip away all of our negative baggage about the word doubt. We hear that word and instantly think of failure. But self-doubt here does not mean having low self-esteem. It's not about questioning your self-worth or suffering from endless hesitation and anxiety. Instead, it's one very specific, highly intentional action. It's holding your model of a disputed reality loosely, and especially holding your assumptions about why other people do what they do loosely. You hold it as a theory that could be wrong, actively keeping your mind open to revision. You see, you can act decisively while still being completely open to the possibility of being wrong. Take a good surgeon, for instance. She cuts with a perfectly steady hand, showing absolutely zero hesitation in the moment. Yet she remains acutely alert to the slightest sign she might have made a mistake. Or look at the good scientist, who commits fully to running an experiment but ensures the underlying hypothesis always remains refutable. Doubt lives in your model of the world, not in your hands. It's intellectual humility seamlessly paired with confident action. Section 3, the anatomy of conflict. When certainty lacks symmetry. So, the crucial point is, what happens without it? Now that we know what healthy doubt looks like, let's look at the bleak, inevitable outcomes when two people simply refuse to doubt their own absolute certainties. If you're tied to someone and neither of you will yield, there are really only three ways the story ends. Number 1, coercion. One person simply overpowers, exhausts, or just yells louder than the other until they submit. Number 2, breakup. The pressure is just too much and the bond snaps completely. Or number 3, outside intervention. You have to drag in a manager, hire a judge, or, on a global scale, go to war. Without self-doubt, the loudest, strongest, or most shameless person simply wins by force, or the relationship shatters entirely. Self-doubt is literally the only door out of that trap. But wait, there is a massive trap here. And honestly, this was a huge light bulb moment for me. If you are the only one doubting yourself while the other person remains absolutely certain, well, that's not humility. That's manipulation. The thoughtful person will endlessly concede ground to the person who never pauses to self-reflect. For self-doubt to be a tool for shared learning rather than a fast track to your own surrender, it has to be symmetrical. It must be a mutual agreement between both people. The author shares two deeply personal anecdotes that ground this beautifully. First, a painful divorce, when two opposing, unshakable narratives collided in the marriage and doubt vanished from one side, the learning completely stopped. The relationship inevitably reached for coercion and ultimately had to be settled by a judge. It was a complete failure of shared doubt. But contrast that with a second anecdote. The author describes losing their religious faith, creating a massive foundational reality gap with their devout parents. Yet that bond survived and evolved beautifully into something deeper. Why? Because the doubt and the continuous willingness to keep learning remained mutual on both sides. They approached the gap with curiosity, not armor. It was the exact same kind of profound reality gap, but with a completely different, life-affirming outcome. Section 4. 5 Steps for the Real World. How you can practice shared doubt starting tomorrow. So how do we actually use this in our next argument? Here are 5 highly practical, concrete steps you can take. Step 1. Treat your certainty as a warning light. When you feel that hot, absolute certainty flooding your brain, that's the exact time to slow down, not the time to strike. Moving to step 2. Articulate the other side so well they nod. Seriously, if you can't state their view fairly enough that they agree with your summary, you simply don't understand it yet. Step 3. State up front what would actually change your mind. This is huge. If your answer is nothing, you're defending your identity, you're not searching for a truth. Step 4. Doubt your stories about people's motives most. We are notoriously, incredibly bad at guessing why people do the things they do. Just give them some grace. And finally, step 5. Say I might be wrong out loud. Speaking your potential wrongness out loud breaks the tension. It builds a symmetry required to invite the other person to lower their guard and do the exact same thing. Section 5. The macro view. Scaling doubt to science, law, and democracy. Now, let's zoom out for a second and see how this all connects on a much larger scale. Because as we look at the bigger picture, we realize this concept doesn't just save marriages, it saves civilizations. We're more interdependent right now than any humans in history, stuck on a single planet we can't leave. And our most vital institutions are literally built on institutionalized shared doubt. Science isn't a place where nothing is true. It's a brilliant system of peer review and refutable claims that builds a self-correcting, sturdier shared truth. The legal system doesn't assume there is no truth. It's a highly structured way to approach finding it together. And democracy? Democracy is literally just periodically doubting who should rule. A culture that can doubt itself can correct itself. One that can't inevitably shatters. And this brilliantly illustrates our core message today. Holding your version of reality with an open hand isn't a sign of weakness or a lack of conviction at all. It is a profoundly courageous act of survival for a marriage, for a workplace, and for a civilization. It demands real vulnerability to look someone in the eye and admit you don't have all the answers. It takes infinitely more strength to say, I might be wrong, than to loudly, stubbornly proclaim, I am right. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to carry with you. Self-doubt is not our destination, but learning. We don't doubt just to wander aimlessly in the dark or to feel insecure. We doubt so that we can keep the door open to reality and to each other. Truth isn't lost in doubt. It's built together through a lifetime of shared learning. So the very next time you find yourself absolutely, undeniably certain you are right in an argument, ask yourself, are you strong enough to be wrong?